inauguration of President Trump. Now on 7, it's Inauguration Day.
We are going to make America great again.
Donald Trump set to be sworn in as the 45th President of the United States. Crowds gather in anticipation, celebrating our democracy. Live from Washington and Boston, this is 7 News special coverage, the inauguration.
Good morning. We have live pictures now from the nation's capital, where hundreds of thousands of people are in Washington to see Donald Trump taking the oath of office. We are less than 2 hours away from the inauguration ceremony. It's already been a very busy day for the president-elect. He started the day at a worship service at St. John's Church. He's currently meeting with President Obama and the First Lady at the White House.
Some tea at the White House on what's going to be a long day for the president-elect and his family. Security in Washington, as you can imagine, is at an all-time high. Celebrations are expected to be met by more than 100 different protests as well. So we have Team 7 coverage for you in Washington, D.C. this morning. 7's Jonathan Hall is on the National Mall, but we want to begin with 7's Dan Housley, who is live in the U.S. Capitol, only about 100 yards or so, Dan, from where President-elect Donald Trump will become the 45th President of the United States in about 2 hours.
That's right, Chris. Quite a seat or a standing position to history here. And I don't want to jinx things, but the drizzle of the morning has stopped, and skies have actually brightened. I don't think we're going to see the sun peeking through, but we could be lucky enough to maybe see get away without any heavy rain or maybe having no rain at all.
Krista, I am. We are located in Lafayette Square, which is right across the street from the White House, and that viewing stand behind me is where President Trump will be in just about 5 hours from now, just after 3 o'clock. He will lead the parade through and then get on that viewing stand with his family, with his VIPs, with his VP to watch all that happened. And here's some video from just a few minutes ago here at the White House. Quite a historic scene. As you know, it's Barack Obama's very last day as President of the United States after 8 years. Quite an emotional time for President Obama, the 44th president. And he met Melania Trump and Donald Trump here on the steps of the White House, the incoming 45th president of the United States, making his arrival. Historic times here in Washington, and there are plenty of people from Massachusetts who have come here to see it all, and they're very excited to see the new president take the oath of office.
Thousands of people descending on our nation's capital to celebrate the inauguration of our 45th president, Donald Trump. And there's a strong contingency from Massachusetts.
Are you glad they made the trip?
Am I glad? I'm rushing up to evolve. Yeah, this is not how we typically look.
These two women from West Roxbury and Westwood were lucky enough to get up close.
It's beyond exciting. It really is beyond exciting. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Love the pomp and circumstance of an inauguration of the President of the United States. You know, Dan Housley mentioned that Donald Trump will use 2 Bibles when he takes the oath of office at noon. There was a president who refused to put his hand on the Bible at all. He's from Massachusetts. Can you name him? 1825 was John Quincy Adams, the 6th President of the United States, the son of our 2nd president, and one of the great patriots, John Adams. Back to you in Boston.
Preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
It's 1 o'clock on this Saturday, and we want to bring you live scenes right now from the Boston Common because it is just an incredible scene right now. Massive crowds there on and really around the Boston Common, surrounding this entire area for this Women's March. I think we've been hearing estimates of 100,000 people out there.
We actually saw a wave of maybe 1,000 or so people come down Comm Ave where we're standing.
This was an unbelievable sight out here today. Every inch of this Boston Common was covered with demonstrators, and they came here with a very loud message for our new president, Donald Trump.
Okay.
A sea of humanity covering Boston Common.
Hey, if you want to find out why any of the people were marching today, read one of these signs. Read all of these signs. You see behind me, there are thousands of them that were carried this afternoon during that march that have been placed here in this corner of the Boston Common, now that it's wrapped up this afternoon.
This morning, a lot of the trains, especially on the Green Line, were filled to capacity, making it one of the busiest Saturdays the MBTA has ever seen.
Hundreds of thousands descending on D.C. for the Women's March on Washington. The protest forcing organizers to change plans for the exact route of the march. 7's Dan Housley live in the middle of it all. Good evening, Dan.
Good evening. Yeah, this mother march of all those marches was even bigger than the organizers expected. And also what's interesting is just how far people came from all over the country. I'm in a bus parking lot where they're all now heading back to where they came from. Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, all over. Now they're heading home feeling mission accomplished.
Ryan, good evening. They are pretty driven, and it appears these protesters actually outnumber the number of people who were here celebrating the inauguration yesterday. As you say, the Bay State well represented.
They came, they cheered, and they spoke their minds. New Englanders made the trek down to Washington to protest the inauguration of Donald Trump. Some say they're nervous about the president limiting access to good health care and reproductive rights. A mother and daughter from Duxbury made the trip together.
It's a good feeling. It's nice. People seem excited and ready to go.
You feel empowered?
Yes, definitely.
By coming together?
Definitely.
Dan, before you go, tell us about the Greenpeace protest just blocks from the White House. I know you were one of the first ones there.
Well, we've got 7 protesters from Greenpeace, about 6 this morning, jumped up on the crane you see at the construction site behind me. They went up 270 feet into the air and were up there for a few hours while police waited below, finally unfurled a banner 30 by 70 feet that would resist. They say it can be seen from the White House, and it could be seen with the White House in the foreground, saying they're sending a message to President Trump, but others were not so happy with that.
He's already begun to roll back environmental policies that have been fought for decades by activists, by lawmakers, by communities all across the country.
It's not right what they're doing. They're holding everybody's job up and everything. Unsafe. They can die, drop. I mean, anything can happen.
And the protesters have wrapped up their banner, but it's taking hours to safely bring it and them down. Police are waiting here on the ground to arrest them. We're live in Washington. Dan Housley, 7 News.
And the House had been debating this bill all week long. You know, we've been talking a lot about it here. It's been making all sorts of headlines. Emotions running high at times, and the debate getting fiery on the floor. From the fallout and frenzy in Washington to reaction here at home, we have Team 7 coverage of this big breaking news from our nation's capital. Let's start with Dan Housley, live there in the Capitol building with the latest developments. We know you've talked to a lot of people. You tried to get every side, so lay it out for us, Dan.
Well, Adam, in the end, the man who wrote the art of the deal just couldn't get the deal done.
7 Sharman Sacchetti continues our Team 7 coverage now also from Washington, D.C. Sharman.
And tonight, Democrats are, in fact, declaring victory, calling this a great day for the country. I did speak with Congressman Joe Kennedy, who did tell me there is still much more work to do, but he said this was a bad bill and it wasn't the answer.
All right, we have some major breaking news out of Washington. We understand from the White House the president has fired FBI Director James Comey. Here's Dan Housley.
Well, in a move that strangely might get bipartisan support, the White House announcing just now that President Trump is firing FBI Director James Comey based on the recommendation of Attorney General Jeff Sessions and on the Deputy Attorney General.
Tonight on 7, a special task.
A very solid and significant step.
A former FBI director taking a closer look at Russia.
Staying on top of breaking news from Washington, the Department of Justice assigns a special counsel to investigate the Trump campaign's potential Russian ties. The decision comes after 2 weeks of mounting allegations against the president and his team.
The Justice Department choosing Robert Mueller. He's a former director of the FBI who served in that role from 2001 to 2013. Mueller has ties to Boston as well, serving as assistant U.S. attorney in Boston. That was 1982. He was also a partner at the Hale & Dorr firm in Boston in 1993.
We have night team coverage of this major major development from D.C., beginning with Dan Housley, live at the nation's capital.
This is a 7 News special report. The fired FBI director under oath on the president and Russia. Live coverage from Washington as Comey testifies.
Good morning. It's 10 a.m. here on your Thursday morning. What you're looking at are live pictures from inside the Hart Senate office building.
Right now, we're on the South Lawn where Marine One is waiting for the president to head off to New Jersey for the weekend. But less than an hour ago, he was there in the Rose Garden talking about the Comey testimony.
This is a 7 News special report.
Special coverage on the news station live from Washington, D.C., where Attorney General Jeff Sessions is set to testify before the Senate Intelligence Committee. There's Dan Housley live in Washington. And I would suspect, Dan, that there's also going to be lots of talk about the relationship between Sessions and President Trump and the loyalty factor and so on and so on.
Yes, that's exactly what I was just going to talk about.
We have breaking news out of Washington. It's another White House shakeup. President Donald Trump appointing a new chief of staff. President tweeting a short time ago that he has appointed General John Kelly to the position. Kelly is actually a Boston native who is currently serving as the Secretary of Homeland Security.
And it means Reince Priebus is out. 7's Dan Housley live in Washington, D.C., following the latest developments. Dan?
Well, what a shocker this afternoon, but CNN is reporting that Priebus actually quietly resigned from his position sometime yesterday before ever getting on Air Force One this afternoon. But that would have been just hours after that profanity-laced tirade from the new communications director, Anthony Scaramucci, accusing Priebus of being a big White House leak. But in a statement just moments ago from the White House, they praised Priebus and said he'll always be a member of the Trump team.
A new administration means a new staff, and the person who always had his eyes on the president is headed out too.
Pete Souza grew up right here in Massachusetts, and today it was goodbye to the president's official photographer. His mother sat down with 7 News, and here's Kim Casey to talk more about his story and, of course, her story.
And everyone is in for a treat with this one. Peter Souza spent 8 years covering President Obama's every move. Probably his biggest fan, his mom, describes her son's responsibilities as the opportunity of a lifetime.
Access to history, I like that.
Lillian Souza keeps up with her son Pete's work through his photography books.
I'm not good about technology. I don't have a computer. Then he wrote that book.
At 90, she knows nothing of things like Instagram and her son's 636,000 followers, but she knows his job as chief White House photographer is special.
And there I am, yeah, with the prez.
Who else gets notes like that from their son's boss?
To Lillian, it was joy to meet you. Thanks for doing such a great job with Pete, Barack Obama. That was an honor.
Or get so excited about a trip to the office.
I saw Joe Biden go by and I said, oh my God, it's Joe Biden. I love you, Joe Biden. Everybody started laughing. I just couldn't help it. I was so overwhelmed.
Joe seems pretty fond of her, too.
Mom, you are a great lady. Now I know why I've liked Peter for so long. With affection, Joe Biden.
She's known her son was special for a while. After all, he was the official photographer for Ronald Reagan's second term.
I know when President Reagan died, Nancy Reagan requested him to go when President Reagan was buried.
She says Peter got the White House job because of his talent, although she admits she didn't see it at first. He didn't pick up a camera until he was a student at Boston University.
I don't know where he got the talent. I know when he was going to BU and he came home and said something about he thought he was going to be a photographer, and I thought, oh no, 4 years at BU and he's going to take pictures.
In 2013, his dream job,
he loves what he does,
paved the way for a dream wedding.
Peter got married in the Rose Garden, you know. President Obama officiated, and then when I did that, after he said, Mom, you're not supposed to touch the president. How did I know?
He has an amazing collection of work from around the world, which she never tires of seeing.
But I think My son has worked for 2 presidents. You know, I'm so proud of him.
Lillian says she's not sure what her son will do next after Mr. Obama leaves office, but she knows what she'd like.
I know he'll write another book. I hope I live to read it. That's what I want, yeah.
Well, Mrs. Souza, we think you are a great lady as well. Thank you for sharing your time with us. Your son's pictures are incredible. President Trump has not yet named an official White House photographer, so we'll have to wait to see who will photograph history in the next administration. In the newsroom, I'm Kim Casey, 7 News 19.
This is 7 News at 4.
We are following breaking news. A pilot killed after a plane crashes into a condo complex in Methuen. This is a live picture from Sky 7. You can see the tail of that plane sticking out of the roof, and a major response to the scene there. Of course, you can see the situation continues to develop throughout the hour here as we continue to bring you the latest information.
And take a look at the cell phone video of the crash. Smoke was just pouring out of the roof there moments after. Investigators do tell us that luckily here, no one else was hurt when that plane went into the roof of that building.
We have crews all over the scene. Let's start with 7 Steve Cooper live from Methuen.
Well, Ryan, just some really terrifying moments unfolding here earlier this afternoon. Witnesses describing the sputtering sound of an engine before they watched that plane plunge into the side of that condominium building just behind us there. And you can see the tail of the plane still sticking out of that building even as we speak.
With the plane still sticking out of the building here behind me, of course, as Steve mentioned, we might have to wait 24 hours before the federal investigators get here and take a look at it. So the plane's still where it was when it crashed, and people here still in awe of what they're seeing. Of course, we're right across the Merrimack River from Lawrence Airport, so planes fly over this condominium complex all the time.
Let's get to Newburyport, where the pilot lives. 7's Alex DePrado is there.
Brian, Alan Lavender served as mayor here from 2002 to 2003. This is the neighborhood he lived in. He is a former mayor here. Neighbors call Lavender caring and friendly. They say he loved flying and built the experimental aircraft partially in his front yard here in Newburyport, then completed the aircraft in Lawrence. He started flying last summer. FAA records show that plane took to the air in 2016. A former councilman here in Newburyport said he will miss Lavender and that Lavender worked to solve the area's problems.
7 Steve Tellier is live with the details on that.
Yeah, Ryan, we've spoken to several people who live in this area who have been here for a few decades, and they remember that crash just as clearly as they will likely remember this crash. It was back on January 5th, 1999. It was also in the afternoon, about 4 o'clock on that day. 7 News was there. We have video of that scene. In that incident, a single-engine plane took off once again from the Lawrence Municipal Airport right across the river here.
And we continue to follow that big breaking news. Former Patriots tight end Aaron Hernandez found dead in his prison cell overnight. Officials there saying Hernandez committed suicide, hanging himself with his bedsheet. News of his death comes just days after Hernandez was found not guilty in the double murder of 2 men in Boston. His family and his legal team saying today that they are shocked. The Department of Corrections says Hernandez blocked the door to his cell, which made it difficult for guards to get to him. We have Team 7 coverage of this breaking news, and we want to begin with 7's Dan Hausler.
From football star to convicted murder, the Aaron Hernandez story had so many incredible twists and turns, but this was an ending no one saw coming. Hernandez dead, hanging from a prison bedsheet. Corrections officers turning away visitors today after the shocking prison cell suicide of high-profile murder convict Aaron Hernandez. Prison officials releasing a statement this morning that reads in part, Aaron Hernandez was discovered hanged in his cell by corrections officers at the Sousa Baranowski Correctional Center in Shirley, Massachusetts at approximately 3:05 a.m. Life-saving techniques were attempted on Mr. Hernandez, and he was transported to UMass Leominster, where he was pronounced dead at 4:07 a.m. The suicide comes just 5 days after the former Patriots star tight end broke down in tears as a jury acquitted him of double murder charges. Hernandez's attorney promising an appeal of the murder conviction that still left him facing a life sentence. Defense attorney Jose Baez releasing a statement calling for a thorough and transparent investigation, adding, "There were no conversations or correspondence from Aaron to his family or legal team that would have indicated anything like this was possible." Prison officials say Hernandez was in a single cell in the general population. They say there's no sign of a suicide note, and Hernandez was not on a suicide watch for any reason. The Department of Corrections statement explaining Mr. Hernandez hanged himself utilizing a bedsheet that he attached to his cell window. Mr. Hernandez also attempted to block his door from inside by jamming the door with various items. State police investigators assigned to the Worcester County DA are now on scene at the prison, joining the Department of Corrections looking for answers. The Bristol County District Attorney's Office, which successfully prosecuted Hernandez for the murder of Odin Lloyd, called Hernandez's suicide a sad end to a tragic series of events that negatively impacted a number of families. It was just days ago Hernandez's former coach, Bill Belichick, gave his own take when he was asked for one-word answers and the subject of Aaron Hernandez was brought up.
Aaron Hernandez.
Tragedy.
Heartbreaking.
Yes, that would be another word.
Prison officials have yet to say exactly when Hernandez was last seen alive and by whom. We have no indication whether the prison officials will have any further statements on camera or off. We're live in Shirley. Dan Housley, 7 News.
We want to head over now to 7's Byron Burnett, who's live in Boston with reaction. And Byron, you spoke to people who just talked to Hernandez yesterday, and they say he seemed hopeful and was looking forward to seeing his daughter again.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Right now we're at the medical examiner's office in Boston, where an autopsy is underway into the investigation of the death of Aaron Hernandez.
7's John Coco is live at Gillette with what they had to say. John?
Well, Nicole, we really got a mixed reaction from fans when we spoke with them at the Pro Shop earlier today.
7's Sherman Sacchetti is live in North Dartmouth right now. And Sherman, you got to look inside the unit where Hernandez was being held.
I did. We're here live at the Bristol County Jail, and I can tell you this is where Aaron Hernandez spent time during his first arrest when he was arrested in the death of Odin Lloyd.
We want to continue our team coverage now with 7's Matt Rascone.
Yeah, we spoke to the state senator outside the correction facility just moments ago. He calls the death of Aaron Hernandez another example of why the state needs to improve conditions for correction officers and prisoners.
We have breaking news in the car auction crash that happened in Billerica. The district attorney's office just releasing the names of the second and third people killed in that tragic crash. And we're also learning more about the 9 people who were hurt there yesterday. 7's Steve Cooper is live in Billerica with the breaking details. Coop?
Well, those 2 victims just identified are from Rhode Island, and we know that a third victim, again, all killed in this crash. We should say that she is from Lowell. Now, again, here at the auto auction, it's been business as usual while this investigation goes on.
7 News at 9 starts now.
First at 9, a live look inside the JFK Library where President Obama will accept the Profile and Courage Award. He is set to speak any moment. You can see there, big crowd right now.
Yeah, this is just one of his first big appearances since leaving office, and a number of celebrities and politicians walking down the red carpet tonight for the big event.
The night team, Sharman Sacchetti, has more from outside the library. Sharman?
And we can tell you, of course, President Obama is inside the library right now. He's receiving that award. But outside here on the red carpet, it was a who's who of political heavyweights. And the talk not only about this event, but also the future of health care.
We're just really looking forward to a nice celebration here tonight.
State Senator Ted Kennedy Jr. escorting his mother, Joan Kennedy, down the red carpet. Caroline Kennedy and her son, Jack.
It's just a wonderful, wonderful evening.
And the widow of the late U.S. Senator Ted Kennedy, Victoria Reggie Kennedy, all coming out to see President Barack Obama receive the JFK Profile and Courage Award.
Look, it's a thrill. Thrilled to be here with my wife. This is a rare night out for the 2 of us, so it'll be fun.
The award coincides with the 100th anniversary of President Kennedy's birthday, and it brought out big names.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. Yourself? Your thoughts on being here?
Well, it's delightful. A lovely afternoon and a wonderful convergence of historical occurrences.
Robert Kraft says he remembers President Kennedy as inspirational.
We need all people to start working together and bring that hope back.
President Obama receiving the award for his work on climate change, relations with Cuba, and health care. It comes as House Republicans have dismantled Obamacare, its future uncertain in the Senate. Where does health care go from here?
The health care bill that passed in the House of Representatives is dead on arrival in the United States Senate.
I wouldn't expect the House bill to come through intact. In fact, we're starting with our own bill.
Healthcare is a value statement, and making healthcare affordable to everyone, I think, is an important and positive value statement.
It's much more than just undoing President Obama's legacy. It's really hurting our fellow Americans.
And this, of course, lauded as a bipartisan event. Our Republican governor, Charlie Baker, is also in attendance. Also here, former U.S. Senator Paul Kirk, who was the 60th vote to pass Obamacare. We're live here at the JFK Presidential Library and Museum in Dorchester. Sharman Sacchetti, 7 News.
Thousands of people fighting against hunger in Boston today. The 49th annual Walk for Hunger drawing some big crowds. 7's Kim Casey, Adam Williams, Ryan Schulteis, and Jodion Thompson were just some of the people there to help out with the efforts. Now, this event raises money for programs that feed people across Massachusetts.
And this year, organizers say they're on track to raise more than $2 million. The night team's Jennifer Egan was there.
High five to end hunger. Let's do it.
35,000 people took steps to end hunger in Massachusetts, setting out from Boston Common and walking a 20-mile route to raise awareness and money.
I just feel like everybody should be able to eat.
Like Stanley Germain, many of these walkers return year after year to support Project Bread. This year marked the 49th annual Walk for Hunger.
There's so much to go around, you know, and I think everybody should be able to eat, and that's the biggest thing for me.
We also work at Boston Medical Center, and that's, you know, like a lot of our patients are, you know, hungry and homeless. And I just feel like it's a great way to give back to the people that we see on a daily basis.
To know that you're a part of something that is for needy people, Project Bread is awesome.
7 News is a sponsor of the event. The 7 News team participated in the 5K and walk and encouraged people as they headed out on the course. According to Project Bread, 675,000 people in Massachusetts can't be sure where their next meal is coming from, among them children. Today's event raised roughly $3 million, money that will be distributed to programs across the state to help end hunger.
People are walking today, and in the middle of the winter next year, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be very, very grateful for this money, because that's what it does. It literally goes to help our neighbors in Massachusetts.
And that's what you're looking at on the right side of your screen. You see that slow march from the Reggie Lewis Center in Roxbury to Boston Common for a rally that was set to begin 2 minutes ago. And in the crowd, Justin Bork, I know you started at Tremont and Hammond, and you were waiting for the crowd to get there, and we were telling you about just the sea of people on the way. Now that you're in the mix of it, what are you seeing? What are you hearing?
Well, guys, we are in the very thick of this rally right now, and actually it seems to be coming to a stop, which there have been a few of these along the way. First, I want to mention, you guys talked about how Charlottesville may have played a factor in this and influenced people here. We've actually seen several signs with images from Charlottesville, including one with a picture of Heather Heyer, the young woman who was killed when a car rammed through a crowd there. So clearly, that is a fresh wound over here. Now, what we've noticed in terms of the rally here is that it actually appears to be very organized. There's a group that we talked to in front of people who call themselves marshals, wearing bright-colored vests. They've periodically been stopping this crowd, passing out water, speaking through microphones. During those times, you can actually hear there isn't a lot of chanting. Things have kind of quieted down. Generally, and now it's moving again. Once it starts moving again, you start hearing a lot of chanting. Now, we're seeing a lot of signs here that say Black Lives Matter, denouncing Trump, denouncing fascists, the KKK, some more appropriate than others. But we talked to somebody earlier who praised what he said was a very diverse crowd over here. And indeed, we're seeing a lot of different kind of people.
By and large, on this common today, and I've been here all day, people have been relatively peaceful here. We've seen some people walking in with some signs, not on poles, of course, but we've seen some people with signs and essentially behaving themselves, and that is what we have seen. We're expecting those marchers to come walking up Charles Street shortly, and then they're going to have their own separate rally here in the Common. Police are working very hard to keep them separated from the folks down near the free speech rally. So that's the latest here, live on Boston Common. Sharman Sacchetti, 7 News.
This is way low compared to what they originally thought. You don't know if it's just the overwhelming opposite side may have scared some people off, or if they inflated the numbers to make it seem like it was going to be an event that it was bigger than they initially thought.
Well, we are at the end of this march. These counter-protesters are inching closer to the Boston Common.
you know, a lot of them were saying that they found out about this other counter-protest on Facebook and other social media, so they decided to come here as opposed to taking the trip to Roxbury. But thousands of people here, much different than what we're seeing on the other section of the Boston Common.
As the speakers began to leave and they were escorted off of the bandstand, and keep in mind there were those metal barriers that we showed you earlier that were in place, they sort of tried to bring some of the participants out here through Boylston Street and to get them out of the area. And here we are a little bit after 1 o'clock, and perhaps maybe it was the fact that it wasn't as many people as they thought they were going to have for the free speech rally.
On 7, a celestial event, nearly a century in the making. A coast-to-coast total solar eclipse. From Oregon to South Carolina to here in New England. It's about to get dark in the middle of the day, and 7 News is keeping an eye on the eclipse.
All right, let's get started. Live picture from the Oregon coast, and this will be the first place that we will see the total eclipse this afternoon. And good afternoon. We're excited to be sharing this experience with you. Live pictures from all over the country. We will be guiding you through this. Ryan Schulteis, Kim Casey here with you. First time in 99 years, there will be a total eclipse that cuts across the USA. So we're going to show you the path of the eclipse in just a few minutes.
And Salem, Oregon there will begin to see that total eclipse. Then Jackson, Wyoming, through Nebraska, Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, and saying so long to the U.S. in Charleston, South Carolina here at around 2:49 p.m. right there, 2:49 p.m. Our chief meteorologist, Jeremy Reiner, is excited about this eclipse. He's been tracking it as well, and he's got his props, too. Nice.
Yeah, we're ready to do this. So, again, it gets underway here in Boston about 1:28, and it will max out at 2:46 this afternoon. So, again, just a little refresher on what's going on here this afternoon. We've got the moon getting in the way of the Earth and the sun, and so that moon casts a shadow onto the Earth, and the full shadow is known as the umbra. We will not be in that in Boston. We will be in the penumbra, the partial shadow from the moon in about a half hour to 45 minutes. So again, do not look directly at the sun. Regular old Ray-Ban sunglasses are not going to do it. You've got to use the approved solar filters or indirectly observing using a pinhole projection. That's actually what I've built that this afternoon out of an old cereal box.
We're here at the McAuliffe Shepherd Discovery Center here in Concord, New Hampshire, and the place is just packed with everybody here to celebrate the eclipse. You see a lot of these kids here, school kids here, making crafts and things, making things like sundials of all things today. And over at this table here, this is where they're making, they don't have any customers right now, but they keep showing up. They're making these pinhole cameras we've been talking about.
A lot of different tools being set up for viewing. If you don't have the glasses, it really is no problem. I was showing during the news at noon that you can actually use a pasta strainer, a colander, if you find one of those in your cupboard at home. It's very easy to do so, kind of the same idea as a pinhole projector. You just turn your back to the sun and let the sun shine through the holes onto a light surface, and you'll be able to see the eclipse happen. Again, just a partial eclipse for us, but I know, Kim and Ryan, you know that I'm from Idaho. I grew up in Boise, Idaho, so I was just FaceTiming with my family on the phone, and they have a big party set up. They've got all of their viewing tools, and they're already seeing the eclipse there again in the Pacific Northwest, or Intermountain Northwest, as it were.
So don't look at it before totality. Don't worry about looking at it during totality.
Yes, I didn't think about that until today, that when the moon is directly over the sun, you can actually look to the sky. Now, here we only have a partial.
Look at that.
Unlike Haley, Idaho, which is about to experience
We can watch it happen in front of our eyes.
You just see the dot of light, and there it goes. Poof.
Yeah. Look at that. Yeah, beautiful.
7 News at 11 starts now. Tonight on 7, fierce flames, sparking explosions.
Lives are going to be turned upside down because of this.
Smoke filling the air.
My house is full of smoke, closed all the windows.
A brand new building destroyed in Dorchester.
And we are following this breaking news now at 11. A live look at the foamy scene in Dorchester. Crews continuing to battle hot spots. They're hoping the foam gets rid of the last of the flames after a massive fire ripped through a building under construction. So the fire has been burning now for more than 8 hours.
Tonight, crews are making sure every last hot spot is taken care of. Firefighters have been battling this fire all throughout the day. not a single break. This was the scene around 3:24, about an hour into the fight. Smoke and flames all over that rooftop. The building was set to open in the next couple of weeks.
But then watch this. You can see the flames spread quickly. This video around 6:25 this evening shows also an explosive scene. Firefighters looking up at the massive fire and just trying to get it under control.
The scene dying down a little tonight. This video from around 8:30, just before 8:30, you can see the burned out roof and the hot spot still going strong.
And it's continued to burn into the night. This just after 9 o'clock. Crews still on the scene trying to gain total control over the fire. We have night team coverage from the fire investigation, which will also be coming, and to what people are now doing who were set to move into that building. And what about the neighbors? Well, let's get started with Justin Bork with the latest.
Well, guys, you mentioned all that foam over here. They've switched from water to this, and you can actually see just how light and fluffy it is, how easily it expands over here. So essentially what this does, it allows them to smother the fire, get extinguisher into kind of nooks and crannies that water otherwise wouldn't be able to get into. And that's a good thing. You can see behind me, there's still a lot of firefight to go, but the foam is working. And those Sky 7 HD shots that we've been showing, you can see a lot less flame than we had earlier today. But after this full day of firefighting, there's still a lot of work to be done.
Flames crackle and burn late into the night after a full-day firefight. These 125 firefighters scrambling for hours on Dorchester Ave as flames explode through a 6th-story roof.
It's just going crazy now.
This is a wood frame building, too, so it's not exactly like the best kind of thing to have go on fire.
The brand new apartment building called Treadmark is right across from the Red Line's Ashmont T-stop. The lightweight web of plywood inside refused to go out. Firefighters desperately trying to react. As one fire went out, another took its place. The flames reaching new heights as a ventilation system on the roof began to sag, then collapsed inward.
In the size and scope of this building, it's nothing but a tinderbox.
Firefighters say the building was just a day away from having its fire systems inspected and turned on. They say without sprinklers, it's a miracle it's still standing.
If you look at this, it just took the top floor. As difficult as this was, if it traveled the entire length of the building, we'd have real problems.
The good news, firefighters say, is that there were few injuries. A couple firefighters with heat exhaustion or minor pains, and one construction worker with chest pains. But the building's future tenants, just a couple weeks from moving in, are left up in the air, while they wait to find out if any of this building can be salvaged.
Their lives are going to be turned upside down because of this, and it's sad.
Now, as for whether or not this building can be salvaged at all, that's really going to depend on the water damage. The water is going to do a lot of the damage, but the fire didn't get that low in the building, as the commissioner mentioned. So that's one good thing. The other big question is what caused this fire. That we're not going to know until probably tomorrow, maybe late afternoon. That's when they're going to be able to get investigators in and try to find that point of origin and really figure out what caused this day-long firefight to happen. We're live in Dorchester. Justin Bork, 7 News Night Team.
Justin, quickly so we can stay on time here, and it seems pretty obvious looking behind you. How does it compare right now to what you saw out there earlier when you got on the scene?
Well, this is a far, far different scene. Actually, when we came out here earlier, the big issue they had out here was, yes, the fire, but also the building collapsing. In fact, when we got here, we were pushed back a few times because they had to establish a perimeter for that collapsing building just in case. When we first talked to the commissioner at 5:15, that was his big concern. We did see that HVAC system explode on the roof and fall into the center of the building, but so far, that seems to be the worst of it. In fact, the last time we spoke with the commissioner a little after 8 o'clock, he sounded a lot more confident in the firefight. Obviously, there were still flames at the time, but that big fear of the building collapsing has subsided somewhat. I'm not saying it won't happen. It's still obviously a chance, but the fact that they've switched to foam here, the fact that they're getting these flames contained at least a little bit is definitely a good sign, but they will be out here all night long fighting this fire. Guys?
Justin Bork, thank you. And the Ashmont community of Dorchester is covered in a cloud of smoke tonight. You can just see how hazy it is, and neighbors will be dealing with the aftermath of this massive fire. Alex DePrado continuing our night team coverage live in Dorchester.
Kim, you can see the cloud of smoke still off of in the distance here in Dorchester. In fact, the people across the street in the building with the white light at the top have been ordered not to go home tonight. The smoke simply too intense there. In addition, the neighborhood just east of here also inundated with smoke. Firefighters told people to stay indoors. The choking smoke inundated neighborhoods as it blew east. Some used T-shirts to keep from breathing in the toxic air.
I was, on the phone a lot during the day, didn't really notice, and all of a sudden I realized that my house was full of smoke, closed all the windows.
Firefighters walked the streets to take air quality readings and to tell people to stay inside.
I really don't want to be here. The smoke's pretty nasty. Okay. So I'm out doing some air quality with some of my hazmat guys.
But the Ashmont T station was shut down and some buses were canceled, which forced many into the streets and into the thick blanket of smoke.
I was just coming on the bus and they stopped us before Ashmont, just trying to find a way home.
Peter Tata lives in the building directly across from the fire. The heavy smoke poured into the building, too dangerous for him to go home. He left a window open.
Which then I arrived here and they won't let you pass the yellow tape, and I'm a resident that lives in the building across the street.
But some snuck out quickly. Bentley simply had to go.
He's got to do his business, so.
Now, if you take the T tomorrow morning, the Ashmont T station will likely be shut down. A firefighter told me a short time ago they expect that station to remain closed through tomorrow morning. In addition, if you live in the neighborhoods around Dorchester Avenue, specifically to the east of here, you should keep your windows and doors closed. As you can see, there is still plenty of smoke in the air. Live in Dorchester tonight, I'm Alex DePrato, 7 News Night Team.
So we know that the Ashmont station is closed, Alex, but we see people walking behind you like there's still a lot of foot traffic out there tonight. Is that because they're curious or because they're trying to get home on the buses that have been provided?
Plenty of people are just curious, but again, the Ashmont T station is closed, Kevin, so, I'm sorry, Adam, so what has happened is that plenty of people are walking tonight or trying to get the bus to their next location to try to catch the next, to try to get to their next stop, so that is the reason many people are out in the streets tonight.
Makes sense. Alex, thanks. And the fierce flames causing an explosive scene. As we look at this piece of video, buyers ready to move in by next month. Their new homes now a total loss. It's pretty heartbreaking when you put yourself in their shoes. We're hearing from a couple who was set to move in, and they were watching this video along with us earlier. Here's Kiki Venzel continuing our live coverage from Dorchester. Kiki?
Adam, yes, a really tough day for a lot of these people who are counting on moving into this building here behind me. Now, we just saw a hot spot crop up just a few minutes ago, but it looks like firefighters have that under control. Been seeing, obviously, a lot of smoke pouring out of this building tonight. And I did talk to that local couple earlier today over the phone, and they told me that they are devastated by the news today.
We're thankful that nobody had moved into the building yet, since it was just supposed to close in a couple of weeks.
Stephanie Janes and Ken Perry say they watched in disbelief as the Treadmark building went up in flames. The couple says they just put $20,000 down on a unit ravaged by today's fire.
It looks like the air conditioners collapsed basically right where our unit was. I mean, it's really terrifying.
They say they're thankful no one was hurt, but wonder what the future holds.
Our next question is sort of, what's next for us and the other people who are supposed to buy or rent in this building.
We're also concerned about our down payment for the condo to hold the condo, and whether the builder's insurance will cover the damages.
The developer, Trinity Financial, released a statement tonight in part saying those who were inside the building, which was still under construction, were immediately evacuated. The Boston Fire Department is working tirelessly, and we are so grateful for their efforts. We are fully committed to making sure this project gets rebuilt as quickly as possible. And it looks like they will have a lot of rebuilding to do as we continue to look at the developing situation here. And the developer telling me over the phone tonight there were 83 units in this building. 28 of them were under contract. Reporting live in Dorchester tonight, Kiki Venzel, 7 News Night Team.
So we continue to cover this massive fire in Dorchester, and in fact, a short time ago during our 10 o'clock news, we spoke with the state fire marshal who gave us a brief preview into what he expects firefighters will work to do next.
It appears as though that they have the fire at least in check, so that it's a matter now of determining whether it's safe and how they can safely access areas to completely extinguish the fire that might be in concealed spaces or areas where collapse has taken place. So there's a lot of work yet to be done for sure.
Again, part of our conversation with the state fire marshal earlier, he said firefighters will also be monitoring the air quality to protect both those people and the people who live nearby, and the safety of the firefighters, of course, themselves.
Of course, the weather is always a factor in a firefight. No rain tonight, but some wind feeding the flames, blowing the smoke. Chief Meteorologist Jeremy Reiner joins us with more on that.
This afternoon, we did have those winds out of the west, 15, occasionally gusting 20 miles per hour, adding oxygen into the fire. That was a concern. The winds have since backed off, but the problem with that is that it does not allow for that smoke plume to be dispersed, and typically at night it is more difficult to disperse a smoke plume because the air doesn't move as much. So this is where the fire was through much of the day, and again, that plume was heading off to the east, as Alex noted in his report, but over the last 2 or 3 hours the winds have actually shifted to the southwest, and now that plume will also respond and hang out in these vicinities here to the northeast of the T-stop right there, and we do anticipate that wind to pick up through the day tomorrow, especially mid-morning, which will be good in the sense that it starts to mix up the air, but you know, you heard the fire marshals say that they do have the fire in check, so added wind tomorrow is not going to bring the fire back, but if anything, it helps to clean out the air as we work through the morning hours. Increasingly warmer and more humid in southern New England. More on that in a few minutes.
JR, thank you. And of course, we'll continue to bring you the latest breaking details out of Dorchester. We know the Ashmont station will be closed in the morning. We'll get updates on when that might reopen. Today in New England begins at 4:30 a.m. right here on the news station.
All right, just so you know, we are following more news here tonight. Coming up next, a little boy found safe and sound, a father charged with kidnapping his son. The child reunited with his mother tonight.
Then a monument destroyed. A man with a temper said to be behind the destruction.
And a frightening fall, a toddler tumbling out a window. Witnesses reliving the terrifying moments in Framingham.
And of course, we'll continue to follow the news out of Dorchester. That building under construction, up in flames. Foam now being used to get it out. They've been fighting it for more than 8 hours. A live look at the scene right now, and we'll have the latest here on the news station. We will continue to follow this breaking news out of Dorchester. A live look, still plenty of fire trucks there. The ladders are up and the firefight continues in Dorchester.
All right, and moving on tonight, we have this.
Also from the night team, an alarming attack.
He was assaulted and basically punched in the face.
A child kidnapped.
I'm scared for the child. I'm like, oh my God, you know, I'm not sure who took him.
Found safe and sound.
That child reunited with his mother tonight. He was found safe and sound after police say his father kidnapped him from his home in Plymouth.
Officers tracked down the father in Lynn. He is facing some serious charges tonight. Night Team's Kimberly Bookman is live in Plymouth with the details.
Yeah, Kim, this is where it all started. This is where police say that little boy was kidnapped from his Plymouth home. He was taken more than 50 miles all the way to Lynn, where 2 alert police officers found him.
Back in his mother's arms, 3-year-old Kyrie Taylor had quite a day. Police say he was kidnapped by his own father, couldn't be found for almost 3 hours, and prompted a statewide search.
I believe the officers on the street actually observed the vehicle after the bolo was put out for the plate and the type of vehicle that it was.
Lieutenant Michael Kimmick held the toddler's hand and brought him into the Lynn police station after 2 police officers found him in the back seat of this SUV on State Street in Lynn. The boy's dad, 25-year-old Rospa Randy Taylor, was taken into custody.
This is not Randy. There's something had drastically have to happen for him to do this extreme to do something. He's a good kid. He's a hard-working kid.
Plymouth police say it all began when Kyrie's dad, who does not have custody of his son, showed up at the Algonquin Heights housing complex around 9 a.m. with 2 other men looking for the little boy. The chief says he had a fight with his ex.
She was assaulted and basically punched in the face. She did not require any medical intervention at all. We prepared the information and we requested the Amber Alert.
An Amber Alert was never officially issued, though state police say they were just about to make that move when the child was located safe and sound in Lynn, where his dad has ties. Now, Kyrie's dad is behind bars at the Plymouth police station, while the boy and his mom returned home to their apartment.
The mother was a custodial parent. That man had no right assaulting the mother or kidnapping the kid. I think it's a disgrace.
And DCF says they are aware of the situation and they are working with law enforcement. As for Dad, he is going to face 3 charges in court tomorrow, including kidnapping. Reporting live from Plymouth, Kimberly Bookman, 7 News 19.
Also from the night team, a frightening fall in Framingham, a toddler tumbling out of a 3rd-story window. The 3-year-old girl rushed to the hospital after this dangerous drop. Amaka Ubaka live in Framingham with the latest on the girl's condition tonight. Amaka?
Well, Adam, that little girl has serious injuries. She was taken by helicopter to Boston Children's Hospital. Now, neighbors tell me that this all unfolded very quickly. She landed right here in this driveway after falling almost 30 feet.
A 3-year-old girl takes a terrifying fall out of this open 3-story window. A 30-foot drop onto the driveway.
Traumatizing to see that and to see the aftermath of something like that.
Sarah Taylor was on her porch when all of a sudden she heard screaming and crying. She rushed across the street to help, and by that time the girl's aunt was already outside. Taylor believes the girl fell headfirst out the window.
And she moved the girl from her face to her back, and I was talking to her and I said, get me something, and I'm trying to just put pressure there.
Taylor tried distracting the little girl from the pain.
And I'm trying to just keep her occupied because she really just wanted her mom. She was crying her foot hurt and that there was blood on her hands.
I saw a black shadow just like, I don't know, it came down.
Johan Gonzalez was inside next door and says he heard the impact.
And I saw like a shadow, it was like a black shadow, and it hit the window. And then she fell. It was like a thump. It was like, I don't know, it was hard.
The 3-year-old was taken by helicopter to Boston Children's Hospital. Firefighters say she has a fractured right leg, a head injury, and bruising. As police investigate how this little girl fell, Taylor, a mother of 5, says she's hoping for the best.
And I hope that the little girl's okay, and I pray for her and I pray for her family.
Now, along with police, DCF is also investigating. They actually just left the street a couple of minutes ago. They were here to talk to that little girl's aunt who was here when all of this unfolded. Of course, we'll keep you posted on their investigation. For now, we're live in Framingham. Amaka Ubaka, 7 News 19.
The man found guilty in the death of baby Bella could spend the rest of his life behind bars. A judge sentencing Michael McCarthy to life in prison with the eligibility of parole in 20 years. He's accused of killing the toddler and dumping her body in the Boston Harbor. Convicted. Her biological father speaking to the court in front of his daughter's killer today.
Bella was a gift from God whose life was cut short at such a young age. But Bella was, still is, and always will be in my heart and soul. I was robbed of my chance to be a father to Bella. No verdict changes that, and no justice on earth fixes that grief.
Bella's mother has made a plea deal, and her sentencing will be held early next month.
Also on 7, part of Boston's Holocaust Memorial destroyed. Police say a man lost his temper and threw a rock, shattering the glass. So that's a section of the memorial left in pieces. Police say they're not investigating this as a hate crime. 19's Ryan Schulteis explains why.
This is a reminder of what happened to our families.
A panel of glass from the New England Holocaust Memorial lay in pieces. On it, the identification number of thousands of victims of Nazi concentration camps. 92-year-old Izzy Arbeiter, who survived those camps, showed us the number tattooed on his arm.
18,651.
He helped build the memorial in downtown Boston, 6 towers to remember the 6 million Jews killed during World War II. Arbeiter believes his number was on the panel shattered by a rock early this morning.
You know, I lost my entire family in the Holocaust, in Auschwitz and Treblinka. I was in Auschwitz myself.
Boston Boston police say around 1:30 this morning, a witness heard 21-year-old James Isaac arguing with a group of people and saw him throw the rock. He was arraigned on charges of malicious destruction of property and willful damage of a memorial. The judge revoked Isaac's bail on a prior assault case. His girlfriend left court without commenting. At the memorial, leaders of the Jewish community, along with Boston Mayor Marty Walsh, spoke out.
And as a city, we stand with the Jewish community.
And vowed to repair what was broken.
Resilience is what makes us, the Jewish people, us, the city of Boston, us, the American people, truly great.
When the memorial was built in 1995, extra panes of glass were created in case something like this happened, and one of those panes will be used to replace the one that was damaged. In the newsroom, Ryan Schulteis, 7 News 19.
A member of the Boston Police Department facing some troubling charges tonight. Sergeant Detective Bruce Smith is accused of violating federal law. Investigators saying he lied to federal officials so he could fly armed on personal trips and allowed a friend to board a flight without going through airport security. So this quote from court paperwork: Smith was not on official police business on any of these 28 occasions. Moreover, on every occasion in which he flew armed, Smith falsely claimed to have obtained supervisor approval for his travel. Boston Police Commissioner William Evans issued the following statement: "The allegations contained in the complaint are troubling to me. I hold my officers to the highest of standards and expect that they conduct themselves in a truthful and professional manner, both on and off duty."
Now, 7 weather with Chief Meteorologist Jeremy Reiner.
Temps in the 50s and 60s. Right now, 69 in town. Plymouth at 63. Dew point temps still relatively low. Comfortable air mass across southern New England, so no warmth or stickiness coming into the apartment or the house overnight tonight. However, that's going to change in the coming days. You see these clouds over here back toward New York and Pennsylvania? That's out in front of our next weather system. A warm front, which is the leading edge of the heat and humidity. Temps tonight with clouds on the increase, 55 to 63. Morning commute, if you have one. Again, a lot of clouds through the morning hours with a hint of humidity by 9 a.m. Temps moving through the 60s and into the low 70s. And here is where that front is tonight. And this is causing a ruckus back through the upper Midwest with numerous thunderstorms and tornado watches in the Chicagoland area. So this weather system presses east. I'm not worried about severe weather tomorrow in New England, but out ahead of the front, you notice a lot of clouds. And so I think tomorrow will certainly feature a fair amount of cloudiness. And then eventually, as the front moves east, it'll grab this higher humidity with it and pull it into New England by the end of the week and for much of the holiday weekend. So tomorrow, again, a lot of clouds with some sun in the afternoon. There could be an evening shower in New Hampshire as that warm front gets closer, but essentially it's a dry day, 76 to 83. It's a decent beach day, but I would focus the attention south. I think the seacoast, you're going to have a cloudy day. Metro Boston, it becomes partly sunny, and then I think the South Shore and the Cape, the South Coast, the brightest locations tomorrow for the beaches. Temps 70s and low 80s. High tide not till late in the day at 4:34 in the afternoon. Red Sox back at it tomorrow night. Warmer with a fair amount of clouds out there, but I think you're rain-free tomorrow night. Temps in the upper 70s. And for Friday, here is the heat and the humidity. Mostly sunny skies, a few clouds in the afternoon. There may be an isolated shower or storm Friday afternoon, but again, the key word there is isolated. And the U.S. Senior Open Golf Championship gets underway tomorrow at the Salem Country Club. The first of 4 rounds. Thursday, again, clouds and sun. Friday, it's hazy, hot, and humid with temps on Friday close to 90, and that will be the case into the upcoming weekend, as well as anywhere else you may be across southern New England. Saturday, I think you're storm-free. That's a hot one. Temps in the low 90s with humidity, making it feel even hotter. Sunday, there could be some scattered showers and storms, but it's not washed out. And then much less humid for Monday and Tuesday. Right now, the 4th, looking fantastic. Have a great night.
That's good news, Jeremy. Thank you.
Stay with us. Sports is next.
And now, time for 7 Sports with Joe Amorosino.
The Red Sox grasp on first place in the AL East, not exactly firm. The Sox with some slippage at Fenway tonight against the Twins, opening the door for the Yankees to reclaim a share of first place. Rick Porcello tagged for 4 runs in 6 innings. Minnesota jumped out early on Porcello. Top of the first, Big Miguel Sano rips that 2-out double into the left field corner. Joe Mauer scores. It was 1-0 Twins. Next batter is Max Kepler, who picks a perfect place to drop a bloop scoop single. Sano rumbles home. Minnie grabbing a quick 2-0 lead. After the third inning, Porcello appears to have an issue with his pitching hand, a blister perhaps. He'd stay in the game, and Kepler was glad he did. Top of the 6th, he leaves the yard with a man on, the 17th home run Porcello's allowed this year. He gives up 4 earned in 6 innings. Sox would get one back in the 7th and had a chance to pull even closer, but Taylor Rogers sets down Mitch Moreland here to end the threat. Sox stranded 11 base runners, 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position. Not much going their way tonight. And in the 8th inning, Heath Hembry loses his footing covering first base, gets trucked by Mauer. He was fine, but the Sox stumble as a team, and they lose it 4-1 the final tonight. All right, Celtics draft class spending some time with some kids at the Orenberger School in West Roxbury, but soon they'll be hitting the books on their basketball education with the Summer League set to start next week. Number 3 overall pick, Jason Tatum, can't wait to dive in.
It's great. I'm excited. I can't wait. You know, I haven't played a game since, you know, my last game at Duke. So just to be able to compete and, you know, play 5-on-5 and, you know, put on that jersey again is going to be fun.
Clippers and Rockets starting the summer with a bang, working out a deal to send Chris Paul to Houston in exchange for a package of 7 players, a first-round pick, and cash. We pair him with the 9-time All-Star James Harden. All right, Phil Jackson. The Phil Jackson era is over in New York. The Knicks parting ways with their team president after a disastrous 3-year stretch that saw them go 80-166, including the worst season in franchise history in 2014. And the Bruins agreeing to a 2-year deal with Noel Acciari, keeping the gritty restricted free agent forward for $1.45 million. That's Sports Tonight team. We'll be right back.
Final update on the breaking news out of Dorchester and what we know tonight. This is video from earlier. A building under construction goes up in flames. The trademark building set to open in a couple of weeks, destroyed by this fire. Started around 2:30 this afternoon, sparked explosions and sent black smoke up into the air. It's burning into the night. The flames still going, but mostly a lot of smoke. They seem to really finally be getting it under control. The nearby Ashmont T-stop, though, shut down, and we're told that it'll remain closed until the morning. What time in the morning, we're not sure just yet.
We will keep you posted on that. And now a live look at the neighborhood and the firefight. Crews using foam now to try to get this completely out. They will remain there throughout the night to make sure that it is. You can see that there's still a lot of smoke and it's still an active scene. And we'll be there all night as well. Today in New England, we'll have the latest details beginning at 4:30 a.m. right here on the news station.
Time's up for us here at 11. Thank you so much for getting your news from us tonight. It's been a pleasure. I'm Adam Williams.
And I'm Kim Casey. Have a safe tomorrow. Good night.